Hello, everybody, and welcome to the live Real Talk with Nina. That's me. And today we have Emma. Emma, how do you pronounce your last name? Vega Malta?
Vega Malta. Vega
There we
Malta, yeah.
go. I got lucky. I said that before we went live. Anyway, Emma is coming to us all the way from Australia. And while I'm thinking of my first glass of wine, she's having her first cup of coffee or tea. So we'll see how alert the two of us will be throughout this.
Could be funny. You're half asleep, I'm half asleep.
Yeah, just on different ends of the spectrum. So Emma, why don't you introduce yourself quickly to our audience, who you are, what you do, and then we take it from there.
Yeah. Oh, well, hi, I'm Emma. I'm a designer. And I run a business called Bespoke Backdrops and Branding, and I specialize in strategic brand design and custom video backdrops. And I'm English, but I live in Australia. I've lived in Switzerland for 12 years before this, and I have clients globally. So yeah, might be in Australia, but the world is my oyster.
Excellent. Very good. And why we're talking, one of many reasons why I have you on today's show is because we met through a fabulous networking opportunity called The Dames.
Yes.
And when we met and I saw your backdrop, I had immediate backdrop envy. And since I travel a lot, and I'm actually in Switzerland right now, which is why I'm thinking of wine. I'm not East Coast. I had Emma design this absolutely gorgeous backdrop that you see behind me. And now I don't want to go back to New York because I just want to keep having this backdrop. I might have to order a second one from you, Emma. What I love about the backdrop is it just makes my location totally branded and neutral, right? I could be anywhere. I mean, the thing is pretty big. It's like a king size bed. It's 2 by 2 meters or 6 by 6 feet, but it's super light. It's easy to carry around, and I'm totally in love with it because I just love the branding of it.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. That's the good thing about having a backdrop is that you can be anywhere, and it doesn't matter. I'm about to move house in a couple of weeks, and I've still got client calls and things going on. So there'll probably be boxes behind this. Nobody will know. Business as usual.
Business as usual. Yeah, I mean, I'm in a 450-year-old house with all this warm wood paneling and, antique furniture, but, I have this beautiful backdrop that is in my colors and my branding. And what impressed me most, actually, Emma, was when I shared one of my favorite Swiss artists with you, and you just kind of sort of so captured that the essence of what his work is like. And then you took New York and you took the Swiss Alps and you made it all into backdrop. So yeah, it was pretty.
That's my background is art. I have a diploma in fine arts. Foundation fine arts. So I come at everything from an art perspective first, and then the design and the graphics and the business gets layered into it. But yeah, so when you showed me the artist, I was like in my little zone.
Excellent. Very good. So hold on. I just see that we have a little ticker. There we go. So now people know what the topic is of what we're talking about. Yes. I don't know how that turned off. So talking of layers, let's jump in a little bit. So you work with small businesses and you also work with brick and mortar businesses. So how do you where do you start? Like somebody comes to you and what does the typical customer need from you?
Well, my typical customer actually is mainly an online entrepreneur. So either they're solopreneur, they run their own business with maybe some virtual teams, or it's a small enterprise, five people on the team. And they're mainly online. But these days, a lot of people have sort of online, offline. There's a sort of hybrid going on. So I don't work specifically with people who are bricks and mortar, but they may have a bricks and mortar aspect to it.
Yeah.
So people generally just contact me and we hop on a chat and we talk about their business. And my real focus is that design has a job to do. Design is there to help you run your business. It's not a vanity exercise of exactly what you would like or how you would decorate your home or that kind of thing. So I really look at design from a business perspective, and most of my clients are online with a kind of an offline element to it. And then from understanding the business, understanding who their clients are, the client is really important in the design piece. Then I start thinking about the design work. And then if they happen to have bricks and mortar, great, we'll add in some, signage or whatever. But that stuff actually comes towards the end of the design thinking.
But I mean, talking of that, I mean, the design thinking you need to know where it all needs to translate to, right? So, like in my case, it can be digital assets only. But what happens? Where are there color? Are there shapes? What are sort of some of the considerations that you would think about in terms of translating it?
Yeah. So the first thing, if you want to translate from digital to physical, is the size of the assets, mainly the logo. So if a logo works really well, let's say digitally on a small side of your screen or something, if you've got a shop front, for example, does it work that size? Does it need to be redesigned? And a really great example is Tiffany, the jewelry maker. They have a logo. It's just a simple typography-based logo, and they etch it onto the inside of the rings, and it looks exactly the same as the actual logo on the front of their New York store, but actually different logos, because the small version wouldn't translate, or the big version of the logo wouldn't translate onto the small etching on the ring. So the logo can look the same, but it has to be rejigged sometimes depending on the format and the context it's in. And another thing to consider when you're printing something, and you and I would have had this discussion, is blues and greens are very difficult to print. They often don't come out exactly the right color. Even if you try and color match, and with the printers, there's something about blue and green, and I'm not technical on this, so I couldn't explain it to you, but blue and green are very difficult to translate to physical print sometimes. So that's something to watch out for as well when you're doing both.
Yeah. And I also find that, especially if you're printing out stuff in a monochrome world, like if, you still have an old black and white printer, there are colors that won't translate into, like I once printed out a 12-page how to something, right. It was write a speech, and all the main points were in green, like a similar green to that you see above in the live, and it didn't print at all. It was just a blank page, and I was like, oh, okay. So I had to use my color printer for that, which is not what I want. But anyway, so it's interesting how some colors translate and some don't. And I remember my logo, which I've had the same logo forever. But the rejiggering, we just had a rebrand done last year, and we had the clockwise in bold, and then the productions, because it's sort of just the add-on, in a much lighter font. And when it came to putting that logo into videos, I had to rejigger it and make the productions bold as well, because it was just too elegant. I'm always nervous when I have new clients, and they have this really elegant text-based logo, and I'm like, oh, we're gonna have to do something like this for video.
Absolutely. And it's also always a good idea when you're getting your logo designed to make sure that it's not too fiddly, because if you have to reduce it in size and it's really fiddly, it might look a bit like a bit of a mess. So, I mean, that's not to say you can't have a really sort of intricate logo, but you need to see how it translates small and big. And it's always a good idea to get your logo, or you should have your logo in monochrome as well. So even if you have colors in your logo, you should always have a black file and a white file, so that you can put it onto dark or light backgrounds and not have too many colors.
Very important for video too, for sure.
Yeah, because if you've got, let's say, you and I with our backdrops or a photograph, and you wanted to put a logo on there, my logo is blue and white. It wouldn't really show up here. But if I overlay the logo and I use the white version along here, it shows up beautifully on camera. So do have a black and white version as well.
Yeah, I do actually, and that's very good advice. So, you mentioned earlier about how design supports what you do and is more than just a vanity project.
Yes.
Talk about that a little more, because I find that a fascinating
Yeah,
angle.
it is. It's a fascinating topic, especially when you are your business. A lot of my clients, they are the face of the business. They feel they are the brand. Often they may have their name as their business as well. So it feels really personal, but
Yep.
there needs to be a separation between you, the business owner, and the person who shows up in business, and you, the mum, you, the scuba diving lover, or whatever it might be. There has to be that slight separation. So
Yep.
when you build a brand, you have to think about what you stand for, your values, your voice, your vibe. All that stuff gets translated into your brand aesthetics. But you need to think of it from a market perspective, from your client's perspective. What category is your business in? What else is going on in your category around you? Because this is another thing. People think you need to be different. You don't need to be different, because if you're too different from your category and the people in your competition, as it were, your ideal clients might think you don't belong and think, oh no, that's the wrong product for me. But if you're
okay,
yeah. So if you're distinctive, you fit within the category, your client goes, yeah, I feel like I'm in the right place here to be spending this money, but it's distinctive enough for you to be set apart from your competitors, and that's when you get the recognizability. People remember you, and you become their first choice. So you need to sort of definitely think about your marketplace and your clients when branding, and not just the vanity exercise of like, I like this and I like that, because it might not land in your market, in your category, or for your client.
I find that fascinating. So you want to be different, but not too different.
Yeah.
So
Distinctive, not different.
Yeah, so you don't become an outlier and not the standard. So I guess there's a lot of research then involved with creating a brand for someone.
Yeah, I do. When I hop on the strategy workshops, we go through who their clients are, the competitive landscape. A lot of my clients have been in business for a while, so they understand, the space that they operate in. And so we talk about that a lot. And then when I actually come down to doing the design work or the design research, I'm always on Pinterest, on Google. I'm often, sometimes I have to go to books for references, and I'm always looking to see what else is going on. And then I bring it back to my clients, their vision, and then find something distinctive to add into there. And I look at inspiration for something that's distinctive, to bring maybe that personal element in. I look to art, I look to music, I look to film, I look to nature, I look to all kinds of things that are outside of the design scope, as it were, and see if I can bring something a bit more personal into that branding, while still keeping it doing the job it needs to do, which is to help run your business. So yeah, I do a lot of visual research.
Which is great, and which is how we started when we started working on the backdrop, right? I mean, I love the idea that we actually went into art and started there, because although this looks nothing like a Hodler is the artist that we looked at together, a very famous Swiss artist, and of turn of the century, as in the last one, not this century. But it also kind of gave that sense of stability, of quality, of steadiness, of all those things that I've built my company on over the decades. I mean, we've been in business for 25 years and counting. So that was really, for me, a really actually refreshing, and I love that we did that. And I see that in this backdrop without seeing it,
so that's good. I like that, that feeling. And that's the thing, if you sit in front of the backdrop and you've had emotional resonance with it because you've been part of the design journey, you sit in front of it and it feels great, even though the audience might not see what you can see in it. You can feel it, and that comes through on the camera.
Yeah, and I mean, your backdrop is you. I mean, I've been on the phone with you, or on the Zoom, I should say, with you. This is maybe the third or fourth time, and I just feel like you and that backdrop are, maybe it's because you always show up with that, but it's so is you. So tell me a little bit about actually your backdrop. I mean, I can see there's the Australian flag in there.
British.
British.
English. I'm not Australian. I'm English.
You're right. You said that in the beginning, but you are in Australia. But
Yeah,
the Australian and the British flag have similar elements, correct?
Yes, the Australian flag has the Union Jack in one corner. Yeah.
Oh, but just in a corner. Okay, good. I saw the Union Jack. Yes, that. So so tell me a little bit about what's in your backdrop. What is your backdrop view?
Well, my branding has evolved over the last 6 years. I started Bespoke Backdrops and Branding 6 years ago, and I always wanted to have a really fun, fresh, creative feel to it. I wanted it to look like that art was really important and creativity was really important. So you got the paint splashes. I wanted it to be vibrant, some white space as well. And I just threw in some paintings that I'd done over, the years, the flowers, the leaves. It was just, I just wanted to come across as being very vibrant, friendly, bold, but with a really heavy art slant to it. And I think I'm going to be redesigning it. I need to reprint. So I think in the next couple of months, it'll keep this element to it, but it'll be slightly different.
Okay.
But that's the thing with branding. It doesn't have to change dramatically over time. If you have equity in your brand, and clearly I've got equity in my brand for you and for a lot of people because they instantly associate this with me and my business. When you redesign your brand, and this will be useful for the viewers, is that you don't have to scrap it. You don't have to go, I need to redesign, oh my God, I need to start again. You need to take the equity, like what works in your brand already, and take that thread and then just refresh it. And we did that with your backdrop. We had a look at what you had before. We didn't scrap everything. We took it and took the thread through. So it's the same with my backdrop. It has evolved over the last 6 years, and it's going to evolve again, I think, in the next couple of months. But the thread will be there, and the recognizability will be there.
I think that's the recognizability is so important, which is why we also based this backdrop on my backdrop that I have in New York, which is an actual physical wall. It's not a backdrop. Yeah.
Exactly.
So Bryn has a question. How often do you recommend that brands update their look? I think that's a great question.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, there's no real answer, obviously. There's no alarm that goes off in your business. But generally, I find it's about 2 to 3 years, 3 years roughly, because in that time, in 3 years, your business has changed. So your business 3 years ago, your client base, maybe your products, your services are different or have developed and evolved into what they are today. So maybe the brand that you had created that worked 3 years ago doesn't necessarily work today because of the changes. So what you don't want is to have your business outcomes and your business deliverables to your clients changing and improving, sitting here, but your brand still is there. 3 years ago, maybe that was perfect, but you've developed, your brand then needs to catch up. So it's roughly about 3 years, I find, that clients come to me for a refresh or a complete rebrand. And sometimes people do want a complete rebrand. They don't have particular equity in their branding, or they're moving to a different marketplace, or they're going to a different price point, and they really want to distance themselves from the old business. So that's why they don't want to have their brand equity. They want a different perception, a different marketplace, maybe even a different product and service. They don't want to muddy the waters. So that's when they go, right, we're going to do something completely different.
Yeah. I like what you said about having also good bones or good base, because I know my Clockwise logo has been the same since I started my business in 1996.
Wow.
So I mean, we've changed. The color has changed a gazillion times. The shade, the C has always stayed the same, and the fonts have changed, but that C, that Clockwise C, that has stayed the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
So a totally different question. What are some backdrop no-nos that you, especially for, video, Zoom video, pretty much the same nowadays. So
backdrop no-nos. Well, background no-nos
are,
so no backdrops, but not a physical background. Just make sure that you don't have, you want to show up as the professional in your business. And it's not to say you need to be suited and booted and like stiff and not you. You can certainly have a nice house behind you, but no laundry, no spare bedrooms, no mess, no open cupboards. I've been on Zooms and video calls where people got open cupboards or half open closed curtains. It just looks really untidy, and it's really distracting because I'm really nosy. I love watching those house programs. I'm always looking at people's houses. So if you're on Zoom or doing video, make sure that what's behind you is presentable and professional enough to allow people to pay attention to you.
Yeah.
And puts you and your business in the best light. Like, I actually have seen a video before in the past, many years ago, and I don't think she does it anymore, but she had loads of kids and she had some dirty nappies stacked on the side while doing video. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's just a no-no. So just be very aware, because we can't see what's behind us. I mean, we can on Zoom these days because we can see ourselves, but generally before Zoom was a thing, you could only see with a camera, and if you're using your phone or something, and you couldn't really see what's behind you, but people can see what's behind you. So pay attention to that.
Yeah.
Really important.
The worst offender ever was a VA who had her husband sleeping in the bed behind her.
That's too funny. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think people are much more aware of that these days now with Zoom and all those funny things that came out last year when we were all in lockdown, and naked husbands walking past, and and it's like, okay, now we need to have Zoom hygiene, as it were, video hygiene. Let's get it right,
I love Zoom hygiene for sure. Or like the people, I love the ones who walk through, then they stop, then they stare at you, then they're like, oh my God, and then they run back out again.
Or they try and creep under. You've seen them where they're trying to creep under, but the video.
It's much more distraction than if they just walk across. That's very funny. Yeah.
But then with the backdrop, that eliminates all of that, because you can put it up anywhere.
Yeah, very true. So it is a backdrop much like let's say when people ask me what to wear, I tell them wear a color that you look good in, that people compliment you when you wear it. Is it similar with the backdrops? Do you go into that, or do you just strictly stick with branding, or is it a mix of both?
I don't do the whole color me beautiful thing. I don't look at people's skin tones, and because when you're on camera, it changes. So when I'm not a stylist, obviously, but it's physical. Your clothes, people can see you. But when you're on camera, colors change. Everyone's monitor's slightly different. Your lighting changes, as we know, from day to day, depending on what's going on. Mm-hmm. So I never use the backdrop to match the skin tone. It's definitely very much branding based. I've never done a bright green backdrop where the light, because everything that's really green can sort of reflect and make you look a bit sickly. I've never designed a backdrop like that, so it's never been a problem. But I
green screen for that.
Yeah, exactly. that glow of green.
Yeah.
But I generally stick with branding, and I do ask what they're going to wear on camera, because some people love wearing bold patterns, and maybe then the backdrop needs to not have so many bold patterns. It's a thing like that. If their personal brand is very much about the clothing that they wear, and you and I wearing black, how interesting.
Dark blue. I had a client in my last cohort who was hammering at home that I was not allowed to wear black because no one buys from people who wear black. And she made enough of an impression that I'm now in the blue scale. So this is actually, Karen, I'm not wearing black, I swear. It's dark blue. But yes, it looks black because it's dark, it's night, and yeah.
But it looks really good with your brand colors are blue anyway. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I tend to wear black often in front of this backdrop, and sometimes a blue top, but I have another business. Mm-hmm. A mentoring business, and that brand color is yellow. And actually I don't use a backdrop for my other business, but I wear a yellow top. So I bring that, again, it's coming back to that branding, that recognizability, that thread that runs through. So wherever you are on your brand ecosystem, where your brand sits, whether it's online or offline, there's got to be something that's recognizable and visible and consistent everywhere. So no matter where people find you, they instantly know it's you or your business.
Yeah, so and I think that's subliminal. I mean, I was just talking about that, where you want to have visual recognition, right? Whether it is that you are branding a course or you're branding the advertising for that course, you want it to be instantly recognizable with
Yeah.
every touch point, right? That people know,
Every
oh, this is what she's talking about.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and I never paid attention to the colors of my business because I always had a bright red logo, or well, it went through many different stages of orange and red, and it was just never a color that in the old days you didn't wear red on camera because red was just would explode on with the old cameras, right?
Yeah.
And now with the new branding where everything is in these muted gray and blue tones, and there's a splash of green and a splash of red still. Now all of a sudden I'm much more conscientious of, okay, this is a top that would actually look really nice on Zoom because it's
Yeah.
my branding, right?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think being on Zoom so much more now with our businesses, especially the ones of us who are fully digital, I do find that I pay a lot more attention to how I dress in
Yeah.
terms of does it work for video, does it
Yeah.
represent my
My
brand?
business. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I do. But I'll tell you something. I always dress nicely on the top. It's a typical thing. And it was really hot in the summer, last summer, in Australia. And I had a client call. I had my backdrop, had a beautiful top on. I looked great. I was taking notes, doing my client strategy session, but my pen ran out. So I went, oh, I just need to go and get another pen. And I stood up and it was so hot. I just had my underwear on. It was a female client, but I was so aware of what I was wearing on the top. But when I stood up to get a new pen, she didn't mention it. We never mentioned it again. It was like, don't talk about it. So yeah, I do now try and think about what people can't see on camera, because sometimes people do ask me to stand up and do something. So I'm very aware of what I wear on the top. And nowadays I'm always also fully dressed.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm in the Swiss Alps, and most days I wear ski underwear because when I go outside, I have to put on
Yes, it's cold.
insulated pants. So I'm not going to change because I have a dog, so I'm in and out all day long. So sitting here in white, very nice white long johns,
Nice.
and
It's
a
so
nice
fun.
top. But yeah, I mean, that's the famous stories of anchor men all wearing like suit tie everything, but then
Yeah.
boxer shorts under. So yeah,
Exactly.
sure.
Because I often get clients asking me to show them something or explain the backdrop. So I do have to stand up from time to
Yeah,
time. It's like, okay,
be careful.
think about what you're wearing underneath as well.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So any tips in terms of just I would think that's if you have a brand, if you're not sure, like when you said that when you start shifting either your target audience or you start shifting your programs, it might also be time to do a massive or a small rebrand. Are there any like sort of top tell signs that it is time to employ someone like you?
Yeah. Well, the first one is that if you intuitively you feel there's something not quite right, you're like, there's it starts with a feeling first, and then if you find yourself not wanting to send potential clients to your website, or not wanting to give your business card, or not feeling fully confident to say, here's my Instagram account, that kind of thing, or if you find yourself giving your physical product or service or your physical product to a client and going, well, we're going to change the labels eventually. If you start finding yourself saying and doing and thinking things like that, then there's obviously a disconnect. Something's changed in you with your perception of your business.
Yeah.
And the operational side maybe. And obviously then that will translate, and through your audience and your clients will feel that too. So it's definitely a feeling for sure.
Yeah.
And then just looking at your business holistically, the whole thing, your products, your services. Go and take a journey online as though you were a client, like follow your sales journey and look at all those touch points, and do they fit beautifully together? Do they look the same along the way, or do they look slightly different or dated, or because sometimes you can do lots of little rebrand. You could hire a VA to do another graphic for you, and another VA does this, or someone else does this, and then across your customer journey things looks kind of similar, but they're not. That's when you go, oh, maybe I need to have one person look at the whole business as a whole, come in and create all of the assets that I need. And that's when you need someone to come in.
Yep,
and help
yep.
you.
That's actually a great advice to have one person look at all the assets, because I think sometimes people just don't realize how many assets they have. I mean, I
Yeah.
was talking with Bryn, overall digital content manager, and we have courses and we have decks, and then we have within the course, the handout materials, and then we have, the website, the landing
Yeah.
page for those courses, and and although we're all like the same two or three people doing everything, and we have one designer, still all of a sudden there's like, wow, why do we have this here and that there, and it's not uniform anymore, and it
Yeah.
just happens so quickly, and there's
Does.
so many
Absolutely.
assets that we have, so
Yeah. Need
it's
some digital declutter sometimes of your brand as well, to get rid of the
yeah.
images and assets that you're not going to use anymore.
Yep, that too. That too.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Is there anything that you want to talk about that I did not ask you, Emma?
Not that I can remember. My brain is now firing up. It's kind of 7:30 in the morning. But no, I think we covered a lot, and I really do want to reiterate that design has a job to do. That design is just thinking made visible, and that was a quote by a famous graphic designer called Saul Bass from middle of last century. And last century, that makes it sound so old, doesn't it? Last century.
Yeah, well, I started a company in 1996. I mean, just saying that date makes me feel like
End
ancient.
of last century, yeah. So
Yes.
anyway, the quote is, design is thinking made visible. And it's really important that you start any design journey with whichever designer you choose, that you have to do the thinking first. And it's not just about logos and nice colors.
Yep. Yes. Amen. Amen to that. That's like with video. If you're just shooting video for the sake of video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Think about it first,
Mm-hmm.
strategically plan it, and then the design becomes really easy. Actually, when I do my design work, I spend, we have about 3 hours of strategy sessions, and I do some style skateboards, which aren't even design work. They're just kind of mood boards, as you were. And we only get into the design sort of like a month into it, 4 weeks into it, because we do all of the strategy first and all of the thinking first.
Mm-hmm.
Then the design stuff comes really easily, rather than starting with design and then 4 weeks later going, oh, I don't like that color. Oh, I don't like the way that's laid out.
Mm-hmm.
Because you started with the design first, and then you're trying to work out what works, what doesn't. But if you start with the thinking first, then the design follows on much.
It falls into place, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big fan of strategy first, because, if you know why you're doing what you're doing and with whom, then everything else basically just falls into place. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. I love it. This is a great place to end it. And thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
And
Thank you.
where do people find you best, Emma?
Best is on Facebook, so Bespoke Backdrops Branding on Facebook. My website is bespokebackdropsbranding.com. You can find me on Facebook, or I do a bit of Instagram, but the website's got everything on there that you need to know.
Yeah, I just looked at it today. It looks really, really good.
Yeah, just redesigned. Yeah,
I know. I noticed. Yeah, you had that 3-year itch?
Yeah, I did. It was. Yeah, I was like, I need to change. Get it done.
Really good. I was really impressed. Excellent. Well, Emma, thank you so much. Thank you for getting up early, for getting yourself camera ready, and
my pleasure.
It won't be the last we see of you.
Yeah. Enjoy your wine.
Yeah, I will, and your second cup of tea.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Bye bye, and I'll see you all soon. Ciao.